The movie begins in a university hall where the subject of history is being conducted. It is the 14th of February, Valentine's Day, so the teacher is asking the students about their opinions on love. One of them, named Becca, gets up and says that this day is very important, as Saint Valentine's sacrificed himself for the sake of the lovers. However, another girl named Zoey Miller completely objects to this. She appears to be the nerd of the class, who doesn't believe in superstition and love. Zoey claims that when two people are attracted to one another, it comes down to basic mathematics, not coincidence. She believes that people who have similar qualities and habits can only fall in love with each other. Zoey then brings out her mobile phone and asks her friends to download an app which she has made. However, none of them listen to her, and they simply walk away. After class, Zoey meets her best friend, Elle, and the two talk about their respective days. As they're walking, Zoey is suddenly struck in the head by a soccer ball. The owner quickly comes running to her and asks if she's okay. Zoey assures him that she's fine, and in response, the guy flirts with her. After he departs, Elle reveals that he is Zach McLaren, the captain of the college soccer team. She claims that he was flirting with Zoey. However, our girl doesn't think they're compatible. According to her, a soccer player like Zach could never be interested in a nerd like her. Moreover, she also doesn't find him attractive. The following day, she attends an IT class where she notices a good-looking guy at the back. He is constantly asking a lot of questions, most of which are very smart. Zoey is instantly smitten by the guy as she finds him very intelligent. She believes that they think alike, like nerds. Once the class ends, she tries to approach him, but he appears to have already left. Cut to the next scene, we see Zoey at her workplace, a stationery store. It is revealed that she is living far away from her parents, so she works part-time to manage her expenses. After a while, Zach walks in, and he is surprised to see her there. The two engage in a short conversation, and Zach buys a book he was looking for. But in his haste, he forgets his credit card. Zoey finds it and rushes outside the store, shouting his name. When Zach finally notices her, he turns back. Unfortunately, a car comes in his way at the same time, and he ends up crashing his bicycle. As he falls to the ground, he lands in an awkward way. Fortunately, the injury is not serious, and Zach appears to be fine. But when Zoey approaches him to check, he suddenly grabs her and kisses her. He even addresses her as his girlfriend. Zoey is startled by all this, but she doesn't say anything at the moment. Later at the hospital, the doctor gives the bad news that Zach has suffered a concussion, because of which he has developed a minor amnesia. This means that he won't remember some details that happened in the last month. But Zoey is still confused about why he suddenly kissed her. To find more information about him, she calls her best friend Elle and updates her on the situation. The latter then reveals that Zach had recently started dating a fellow soccer player named Zoe Wallace. Since both the girls have the same name and look very identical, he must have mistaken Zoey for his girlfriend. At the same time, the doctor advises her to not give Zach any news that would upset him. He claims that Zach's brain will take a few weeks to fully recover, so until that time, she should keep him happy. Hearing this, Zoey reluctantly decides to keep the secret to herself, at least for now. Meanwhile, Zach's parents also arrive, and they mistake Zoey for their son's new girlfriend. They even invite her to their home for dinner, to which our girl agrees. The scene then cuts to the evening where Zoey nervously arrives at the McLaren's residence. When the parents begin asking her a lot of questions, she decides to tell them about her real identity. But before she can do so, the handsome guy from the earlier IT class walks in. Zoey is taken aback, as she was definitely not expecting him here. Later, as the family has dinner, we get to know that the handsome guy is Miles, Zach's cousin. He is currently on a holiday after a long semester at MIT. When Zoey hears this, she becomes even more impressed. She keeps staring at him, even though her supposed boyfriend is sitting right beside her. As the family engages in conversation, Zoey notices that she and Miles have the same quirky yet sophisticated answers. She also realizes that the two of them eat in the same manner. This makes her believe that she and Miles are a match made in heaven, so she decides to conceal her truth for the time being. Later, Zach's parents ask her to join them on a small trip this weekend. They claim that they want to know her better, as their son talks about her a lot. Zoey is a bit hesitant, so she decides to call her best friend for suggestions. She explains the whole scenario and asks if she should go with the family. To her delight, Elle mentions that it would be a great way to get away from her stressful life. She advises her to join the family and enjoy as much as possible. Meanwhile, we're shown Zoe Wallace, who appears to be really concerned since her boyfriend hasn't contacted her in a long time. In the next scene, the McLarens and Zoe venture off to a beautiful hillside resort. As soon as they reach there, they decide to go skiing, but Zach opts to rest at the hotel. Later, we see Miles and Zoe enjoying themselves in the snow. The latter appears to be scared of skiing, and she hesitates to participate. However, Miles encourages her and gives her some lessons. Eventually, after falling numerous times, she manages to master the art of skiing. This sparks a romantic bond between the two. At night, the family gathers in the living room of the hotel, and the parents try to explain the story of how they met. However, as soon as they start, Zach and his sister Avery interrupt them, claiming that they've heard this story far too many times. After this, the family engages in a game of charades, where one person will have to act out the given phrase without speaking, while the others will have to guess it. Surprisingly, Miles is able to guess all of Zoe's phrases, almost as if the two have a telepathic connection. A few hours later, as Zoe is relaxing in the hot tub, Miles suddenly joins her. The two then talk about their shared passion for technology and science. Miles claims that they have a lot of things in common, to which Zoe agrees. Their conversation suddenly takes a romantic turn, and they end up kissing. The following morning, Zoe appears to be in a very good mood. She cannot stop thinking about the kiss from last night and hopes that they can have more of it today. However, when she learns that Miles actually has a girlfriend, her whole world comes crashing down. She angrily confronts him about it, but Miles nonchalantly reveals that he and his girlfriend are in a polyamorous relationship. This means that they can have romantic encounters with whomever they want. Hearing this, Zoe becomes even more enraged and she storms out of the place. Her mood worsens to the point that she refuses to go out and explore the city. Now, only Zoe and Zach are in the hotel room. For the first few hours, they just have pointless talks, which bore the hell out of them. But then, they begin playing numerous games. As the day wears on, Zoe finds out that Zach is actually a fun person who enjoys playing nerdy games like her. He even cooks a delicious meal for her, which impresses her. After a while, the family arrives home, but Avery mentions that she left her coat in the car. As she goes to get it, Zach and Zoe decide to accompany her. Outside, Zoe grabs a ball of snow and playfully throws it at Zach. The latter also does the same, and together they end up having a wonderful time. However, at one point, Zach hurls a much larger ball of snow, which strikes Zoe right in the face. Although this doesn't injure her, she is startled for a second. Zach quickly rushes to her and kisses her passionately. At the same time, he gets some fragments of his memories back from the day he struck her with the soccer ball. However, he eventually shrugs it off, thinking it is déjà vu. At night, Zoe calls her best friend for some more advice. She thinks that what she's doing is unethical, but at the same time, she has started developing feelings for Zach. In response, Elle advises her to follow her heart. The next day, the family returns from the trip, and as soon as they reach home, Zoe Wallace arrives at the scene. When both the Zoes come face to face, everyone is stunned. Zach's real girlfriend then discloses everything, leaving our girl with no choice but to explain the truth. She reveals that she faked her real identity for two reasons. Firstly, she didn't want Zach to suffer as his brain was already in a bad state. Secondly, she had a major crush on Miles and thought that she had a chance. However, despite their similar interests and thinking, they never got along. Zoe then says that she has genuinely started liking Zach. However, he angrily scolds her for her betrayal. Feeling embarrassed, she walks away from there while the other Zoe reconciles with her boyfriend. In the aftermath, our girl angrily shouts at her friend for giving her bad advice. She claims that Elle is the reason she's in this predicament right now. One thing leads to another, and the two best friends end up fighting with one another. The next day at college, Zoey's problems continue to rise. The news about her deception has spread like wildfire, and everyone has started mocking her. She quickly becomes the most unpopular girl in school. However, Zoey doesn't care much about it. She's still bothered by the fact that she hurt Zach, the only guy she loves. That evening, she visits her mother and shares the entire situation with her. In response, Mom explains that it's not necessary that people with similar interests will fall in love. She gives her own example by saying how she fell in love with Zoey's father, who had completely opposite habits. Hearing all this, Zoey becomes somewhat relieved. That evening, she meets Elle and apologizes for her actions. The latter promptly forgives her, and the two best friends reconcile. In the next scene, the college is organizing a grand party, and all the students are invited. Elle asks Zoey to accompany her, but the latter seems uninterested. She spends the whole day at home, sleeping and thinking about Zach. At midnight, Elle suddenly arrives at the house, looking excited. She asks Zoey to immediately get dressed up and head to the party because Zach is there too. She then reveals that he broke up with his girlfriend today. Hearing this, Zoey wastes no time and rushes to the party, as this might be her only chance to confess her feelings to him. However, since there are a lot of people, it is difficult to find Zach. When nothing works, Zoey climbs onto the stage, grabs a mic, and addresses him in front of the entire crowd. Her plan works as Zach eventually shows up with his friend. Zoey then rushes to him and anxiously asks why he broke up with his girlfriend. In response, he says, "I am in love with another Zoey." The movie ends as the two share a passionate kiss while the crowd watches on.